Good evening. We welcome you to this work session of the Buchanan Community School Board of Education. All regular meetings have been posted on our district website, in our central office, and each district school building. This evening's agenda is available on our district website located on the Board of Education page under Board Agenda. Our school board members receive the agenda and all supporting documents several days prior to this scheduled meeting, so they can review information, prepare questions or comments, and are ready to participate fully in the discussions and votes that encompass the duties of their office. Board members follow the agenda and review related documents on their devices throughout the duration of the meeting. This work session is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for regular public participation during the work session as indicated in Agenda Item E. If you wish to make a presentation to the board during Agenda Item E, please fill out the Google form located on our district website before Item E on the agenda. Thank you for your support of Buchanan Community Schools. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lee,
Here.
Dr. Burnett, Ms. Ryder,
Present.
Mr. Wentworth,
Here.
Mr. DeVlamic,
Here.
Ms. Lesh here, Ms. Tobler.
Here. We have an adoption of agenda, please.
I make a motion that the agenda for the work session of November 2nd, 2020 be adopted as written.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Burnett is absent, sorry. Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth,
Yes.
Mr. DeVlamic,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes, Ms. Tobler.
Yes.
Passes with 6.
Item Agenda D, recognition of visitors. It's the school board. Trish, Michelle, and anyone that's online, hello. Item Agenda E, community dialogue, citizens' concerns. Let me just check that really fast. And I see none. Okay. Item Agenda F, dialogue on Public Act 228 of 2020, Open Meetings Act amendments.
Yep. So, just so everybody knows, or the board knows, we're here because with the laws have changed with the Open Meetings Act, myself, Ruth, and Michelle attended online training sessions for this. So since it is a board and it is our meeting, we have to sit down, make sure we understand the new law, some of the things that have changed from Open Meetings Act prior to the Amendment 1108 going into effect. And then being that obviously it's, the board's meeting, we want to make sure that everybody was aware, agreed, and then moving forward, an easy way to actually add the amendments to our policy. So moving forward, that we were all clear on the same page. Prior to the Amendment 1108 going into effect. And then being that obviously it's, the board's meeting, we want to make sure that everybody was aware. It's delayed. And then moving forward, an easy way to actually add the amendment to our policy. So moving forward, okay, we're all clear on the same page. Prior to the Amendment 1108 going into effect. And then being that obviously it's repeating itself again.
Why are you still talking?
It's delayed.
So is Trish gonna?
Yeah. Just so everybody's aware, we're having a big delay, and then myself, we heard ourselves repeating ourselves twice. So we're just checking and making sure that's everything's okay with our connection. Okay. Okay.
So, yes, we're good. Can you hear
Okay.
me? Can you hear me?
Kind of muffled.
Okay, we took off here.
Might be your speaker. Yeah.
This is better.
Yep.
Okay, so we have 3 documents in front of us. And Kelly, Ruth, and Michelle, I know you guys are going to lead us out. I think it's important. The first document that you have in front of you is the actual presentation that was presented at the meeting that actually outlined what the changes were going to be. The second document you have is a document that summarizes that presentation. And so there are some big points in that. The third document is a resolution that was prepared by Neola. This would allow us to adopt all of the changes, or you to adopt all of the changes that are outlined into SB 1108 into practice for the board. And Kelly, you want to go through the presentation? And Ruth, if you want to jump in as she goes through the presentation, I think that'll be helpful.
Yep. And did everybody get a chance to read it out of the board members? Okay. So this will probably go really fast. There's not too much that didn't make sense. And even when we were in our training, the big one, the first one I'll start off with was that from January 1, 2021, that basically video conferencing would be retroactive from April 30th, 2020. So, and it says under any circumstances. So before our last meeting we had, we were waiting to see if this got passed, and why that was because we were making sure that if we did have a meeting, and what it is having them virtually, that we were approved by the state. So, so the biggest thing that came was the retroactive language in this law. So if something came out later and said we weren't supposed to be having these meetings the way we were, it could go back. So that retroactive just covers us from all the meetings that we've had from April 30th, 2020.
And part of that was the Michigan Supreme Court ruling that kind of muddied the waters there for a few weeks. And so this was the result of that decision. So now we are covered with through until January 1st.
Yep. The other thing that follows under that is that we can accommodate absent board members due to military duty, medical condition, or statewide or local state of emergency, which we are not in currently. So,
and I might add that will continue through all of next year.
yes. All right. Do you want to do the next one, Ruth?
Oh,
Sorry. If not, that's fine.
no, it's a little confusing. Do we go up to the next top one or to the? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so the next idea here is that electronic attendance is permitted only for a member of the school board who resides in the affected area, and that this is usually when we hold our meeting in the affected area. And so basically this one is saying that in this event of a state emergency or state disaster, that we can go into these electronic meetings. And we'll just alternate. Is that a good one, Kelly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the fluid time. So introduction to fluid time was basically October 2nd was the Michigan Supreme Court decision. October 5th and 9th was the MDHHS emergency orders. And there's 3 things that fit for that, which I am assuming when we continue will probably be in place. A school board may hold a in-person meeting if it is held in location that complies with the attendance requirements of the order. Second, location has to be fixed seating Attendance must be limited to 20% of the seating capacity, but no more than 500 individuals. For Region 6 school boards, it is 25% of no more than 500 people. Region 6 is 25 persons per 1,000 square feet.
So may I add, just when we do go back in person, we'll have our meetings at the high school auditorium.
Okay,
We'll go
thank
back to
you.
that space.
And my understanding is that Mr. Place has determined how many we can have at that point.
Correct.
Okay, if an electronic meeting is held due to accommodate board members due to military duty, which I don't think will apply at this point, or a medical condition, only those members absent may participate remotely. And one of the questions that was raised at that point is what constitutes a medical condition.
Right.
And they said basically there is no set information on that, and you don't have to ask for documentation, doctor's excuse, anything like that. So we take our members' word for medical condition. And any member who's not on military duty and does not have a medical condition must be physically present to participate.
And then continuing the virtual media requirements, announcement must be identified specifically the member's physical location by stating the county, city, township, village, and state. Procedures must also describe how, I'm gonna go back real quick. With that one, they clarified was that if we have a board member that is not present due to a medical condition, when they start the meeting, they have to verbally say where they're at, that they are virtual and not with us present. So, sorry, he clarified that in our meeting.
I have that.
Mrs. Lace,
Procedures must also describe how the public will receive notices of the absence of the member and information on how to contact the member sufficiently in advance of the meeting to provide input on any business that will come before the school board. So one of these changes, this was one of our changes that we did not have on the school website. They had our names and our terms, but they didn't have our contact information, our school board emails. So that has now been added and updated, but we also need to discuss that, make sure that's okay with all board members.
I think Dennis had a question.
Uh-huh.
I did. I thought we already had a policy that board members could participate remotely as long as we had a quorum in person.
I don't know of that.
I didn't hear you.
My recollection was that we had a policy that allowed board members to participate remotely already, as long as we had a quorum of board members in person.
But I think this one says that in order to fully participate, you have to have one of these situations
So that-
after January 1st.
So
Okay.
so we have our policies that are in place that we were following, and then they came up with this, and now we have to either amend our old policies to fit this or accept this amended policy from Neola to fit and cover those certain situations.
Okay.
And I don't know if we could do temporary until, this expires or the act expires. We can discuss that further down the road. And I don't know if even Neola maybe suggests that. I didn't see that in there, but I think it's just for the terms during COVID.
I
Because-
think that's correct.
Yes, I think so.
So school boards must establish procedures to accommodate the absence of members due to military duty or a medical condition or statewide or local state of emergency. Procedures must allow the absent board member to participate in and vote on business before the school board and provide for two-way communication, publicly announcing at the beginning of the meeting, and then documenting in the minutes. So this is something that would be the secretary,
Mhm.
documenting in the minutes that the board member is attending the meeting remotely.
Okay. And then it just gives little descriptions on like a medical condition. And like Ruth already said, just means an illness, injury, disability, or health-related condition. And it does have to be the board member. It can't be a board member's family, or you have to specifically be the board member. I know that was asked in our training too. The other is statewide or local state of emergency declared pursuant to law or charter by the governor, local official, or local governing body that would risk the personal health or safety of members of the public or public body if the meeting were held in person.
In my notes, I've written down that the medical, and there was quite a bit of discussion about what is a medical condition,
Right.
and no documentation. It can be an injury, illness, disability, or other health related. And the question was age, anxiety, and we discussed the fact that lots of people have anxiety now. And so it was a very broad interpretation of that.
Yep.
But definitely not the family member of an individual.
So the next one is all virtual meetings be conducted in a manner that permits the two-way communication. And this just goes in a little more depth. School board members can hear and be heard by other school board members. Public participants can hear members of the school board and can be heard by the school board and other participants during a public comment period. And I go into that because I'm not seeing further. But what that means is, so for public comment, we have always done the fill out the form and submit prior to the meetings. This actually requires us to have a way for the public to communicate at public comment. So basically the president, so Sandy would say, does anybody have a public comment? They would get on digitally, enter our meeting and state their name and say their comment. You cannot require them to sign up prior. They have to be able to do that. So, and we also want to let, the community know, and this may be a way that we can put somewhere on the site or with the meeting, is that people still can contact Patricia if they have questions. So they can still contact the superintendent if they need more information or have an issue that needs to be addressed. But that's just allowing, which we never had before. So now that's going to have to be something that we will incorporate. That makes sense to everybody?
Okay, this notice, talking about notice, the school requires the school board to post 18 hours in advance of a meeting held electronically on the district website that is fully accessible to the public. And if the notice is not posted on the district's homepage, the homepage must include prominent and conspicuous link. Public notice for electronic school board meeting on a separate webpage dedicated to public notices for special meetings or electronic meetings. And this is something that's taken care of by Michelle. And so we really appreciate all of these notifications, Michelle.
And we were already doing the 18-hour notification.
Yes.
So we weren't
Yes.
doing anything different there. All right. So continuing on meetings, school boards may use technology to facilitate tight public comments during the meeting. Submitted by members of the public participating in the meeting that may be read or shared with board members and other participants to satisfy the two-way communication and public comment requirements. What they discussed, though, in our meeting, that the easiest way would be just to stop, ask, or call in, right? Call in public comments. So that's one of the things we need to discuss. A physical place is not required for electronic meeting. Board members participating electronically in a meeting that occurs in a physical place are considered present and in attendance at the meeting.
Okay. The virtual meeting has 4 requirements for notification. Why the school board is meeting electronically, and I'm not sure if we have done that. But now that's something that will be in the next
Incorporate.
meeting for November. Yeah, okay. Okay. Secondly, how members of the public may participate in this meeting electronically. How members of the public may contact members of the board to provide input or ask questions on any business that will come before the board. And finally, how people with disability may participate in the meeting.
All right, so the next is about agendas. So if an agenda exists for an electronic meeting, a school board must make the agenda available to the public at least 2 hours prior before the meeting begins on the school district's website. If the website includes monthly or more frequently updates of meeting agendas or minutes, webpage must be fully accessible to the public, and posting the agenda does not restrict amendments does not restrict amending it at the virtual meetings. So we did it, but we weren't in the 2-hour range. So that is just one that we have to make sure we're in that 2-hour range. Say that again, sorry. Way
With the
before,
announcement.
right? Okay,
The
when we put our stuff, all right.
Yeah.
Within that 18 hours.
Correct.
So
Okay.
we've always been covered by that
So
one.
that one was okay, sorry.
Yeah,
My
this
fault.
next one is good.
My misspeak, I'm sorry. All right, webpage we have that fully accessible to the public, which we have, and then posting the agenda. That was a big one, I think, in all the questions during our training, was that we can still amend that agenda. We all know that during a meeting.
The next one was that the school board may not require a person to register or provide names or other information as a condition for attending the virtual meeting. And the school board may establish and require mechanisms relating to signing up before participating in the public comment period of the school board meeting. So we can't require it for attending, but we may establish rules with regards to public comment and for the public comment period.
And the discussion in that was with public comment, you're going above and beyond attending a meeting. So that is why we can ask, but when you're in a virtual setting, if somebody just starts speaking, we don't know who it is and we can't address the problem if it is a problem, or at least put it in our minutes that was what was discussed during public comment. So even just a name is the basic that we can require. So to help us obviously deal with those public comments.
Exactly.
Sorry, where am I at? All right. When can a board meet in closed
Oh,
session?
we skipped one.
The closed
The
meeting.
closed
Sorry, go
meeting.
back one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you jumped ahead.
Sorry.
Well, see, it's
It
different
said
in
closed.
the notes. It's different in the notes. I'm sorry.
Okay. So virtual meetings, a school board may not require, we did that one. So it is, I'm off because I thought you read that.
Closed meetings.
You did the virtual, so now you're on the close.
The bottom one.
So it's the
Oh,
closed
I see.
meetings.
You went the other way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, closed meetings. Members of the general public participating in a virtual school board meeting may be excluded from participation in a closed session conveyed and held in compliance with the requirements of Open Meetings Act. The decision to hold any portion of a meeting as a closed session allowed by Open Meetings Act must be made at an open meeting. Number 1108 does not suspend this requirement. Something that we were already doing.
So the next issue that they went over is when can the board meet in a closed session?
Right.
And basically these we're very much aware of. Considering complaints, discipline, evaluation relating to employees or board members. Secondly, considering student discipline, and unfortunately that's our most frequent one. Third, discussing collective bargaining strategy. Fourth, considering the purchase or lease of our property. Fifth, consulting an attorney on specific pending litigation. Six, reviewing applications for employment or appointment to a public office. 7, reviewing material exempted by statute. And finally, considering a security planning to address existing threats or prevent potential threats for obvious reasons there.
And in our meeting, they discussed that that number 8, or considering a security planning or to address a certain threat or prevent potential harms, that COVID would be considered as a potential
Yes.
harm. So the superintendent can at any time call for a closed meeting if things got really bad for the district. That was one of the examples they used. Do you remember any other?
No,
think
but
that
in my notes, I have that it would require a 2/3 vote of the Board of Education
Yeah, and it's
to
down
go
there.
into that closed session for those types of things.
And if it did not pass, it would be done. We could not
Right,
hold
we
a closed session. Yep.
Correct.
All right, a little more on the emergency meeting under the Open Meetings Act. A school board may hold an emergency meeting without complying with the notice requirements of Open Meetings Act if it becomes necessary to deal with a severe or immediate threat to the health and safety or welfare of the public. And 2/3 of the members decide delay would be detrimental to efforts to lessen or respond to a threat. Thus, if a COVID-19 outbreak creates a severe and an imminent threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the school district, a school board may schedule an emergency meeting without public notice to address health and safety issues related to the outbreak.
And again, there's that part there that says it has to be a 2/3 vote.
Yep.
If we do not have a 2/3 vote, we stop. We don't go any further. That's when it ends. And I have here, maybe this is a little bit further down. I have paper copies of notice or an email to anyone connected if it's virtual. Okay. And then emergency meetings. If the school board holds an emergency meeting, it must, there it is, must make paper copies of the public notice for the emergency meeting available to the public at the meeting if the meeting is held in person. So if we have an emergency meeting, we have to make paper copies of that public notice. If it's a virtual meeting, then the public notice should be emailed to anyone who connects to the virtual meeting. This is best practice. The notice must include an explanation of the reasons why the school board could not comply with the 18-hour notice and posting requirement. The explanation must be very specific in regard to the circumstances that required the emergency meeting. More than just we need an emergency meeting, it has to be very specific, stated, this is why.
Next, and it's continued, if a school board holds an emergency meeting, must, oh, you did that one, sorry. I'm going backwards from you.
Well, yeah, it's confusing the way it's,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
The notice of emergency meeting must also be posted on the school district's website in the same manner as special meetings are posted. Within 48 hours after the emergency public meeting, a school board must send official correspondence to the Board of County Commissioners of the county in which the board is principally located, informing the commission that an emergency public meeting was less than 18 hours public notice that took place. That is something completely new. The communication can be delivered by either email or U.S. Postal Service and must include the public notice that was distributed at the meeting.
One of the things that's kind of important to emphasize is when all three of us attended these sessions, it was before the governor's signature. And
Yeah.
so there was a lot of what ifs and a lot of uncertainty. And then Governor Whitmer, this was we attended on Friday, I believe,
Mhm.
and she signed it like immediately. And they were concerned that it may take until like Tuesday, Wednesday. So we were all up in the air. They were up in the air, but Governor Whitmer signed it right away. And so it became law as soon as she signed it.
Yep. And the biggest one that Brad Banasic said for our legal counsel from Michigan Association of School Boards was that retroactive language. So we were covered on that Monday meeting on the 16th, October 16th. So
Correct. They really wanted all of us to contact our senator, our representative,
mhm.
to encourage them that these are important factors here in schools and school board meetings. There was some discussion about face coverings at meetings and can the president enforce face coverings, and there's all of that. But since we're virtual, we don't have to worry about that for quite a
Mhm.
while.
I think Harvey's joined us too. Harvey, are you present?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been listening to the whole thing now.
Okay. I
Okay.
thought you were. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware you were.
Yes,
In
Crystal
attendance.
figured it out.
So here's one thing I know from where we want to go is like we have to make a couple of decisions. Number one, how things are going to be done with the virtual meetings, the announcements of if a person is going to be absent, how far in advance do you want to know? When is that going to be posted? Because it does say in here information about how to contact the person if procedures must also describe how the public will receive notice of the absence of the member. So how are we going to tell the public about if a member is going to be absent? How are we going to do that?
Are you in the bill? Does it say anything about the time in that one?
Yep. So
Which
on
page?
the,
Sorry.
I don't know, second page, if we go left, right, 1, 2, 3, the third slide. And then the second point, it says procedures must also describe how the public will receive notice of the absence of the member.
Okay.
So that was one thing I pointed out. So I know we'll have on our agenda, or posted somewhere, are all the contact information of the members. But how will we tell the public if a person is going to be absent?
You
And
can't
how
tell that
far
at the
in
beginning of the meeting.
advance?
That's what I'm reading right now. If there's anything my suggestion would be look at the law and see if there's anything for time frame, and then we'll follow that.
Oh.
But if not, we need to, I guess, make that decision at the beginning of the meeting or.
Is that portion only for starting January 1?
Yes. Yep. So actually, because if you read here in this first one, before January 1st, 2021, or retroactive to April 30th under any circumstances. So we can still have our next meeting in November and in December.
And December.
But I'm talking about the member being absent and notification.
Take a look.
So the question, did they, when you guys went to that meeting, did they address, because if you're the member
It says
having-
in the other document we have, number 4B. Whoop, am I on? Yeah.
Yeah, you were,
For-
but Harvey was talking, but keep going.
And I'm sorry.
It's okay.
4B, it says publicly announcing at the beginning of the meeting and then documenting in the minutes that a board member is attending the meeting remotely. So you don't have to do it until the beginning of the meeting.
So the question, I guess, becomes one of, I'm not sure if they addressed that at the meeting. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes, we can.
So the question that I'm not sure if Brad addressed this at the meeting is, military service is one thing that can be disclosed, state of emergency is another one, but having someone disclose a medical condition, right?
Yeah, you do not have to.
Okay, so the question, because that was going to be a question about HIPAA violations there.
Correct. That's why we
Correct.
said, yep.
But even saying that it is a medical condition is possibly a HIPAA violation.
Correct. And
That was not discussed though, was it?
no, they didn't.
No,
but
that would be a HIPAA violation.
It says in this document, you just have to disclose that they're attending remotely. You don't have to say why.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And the reason for any of those three things would go to the superintendent and she would just be notified. So there wasn't anything additional. You can't ask for any documentation. I know they talked about all that. So it is, like you said, you would just say they were absent. So,
As long as
Or
they're aware, we're good.
participating remotely.
or participating.
That's all you'd have to say, but they don't specify how far in advance you have to.
No, and I was just looking at the procedures. No, it doesn't say anything like that.
I don't see anything.
No.
So that could just be an announcement at the beginning of the meeting.
Mhm. And then if we go to student assessment, the students must describe. So we just have to have procedures put down in place of how it's going to be done. So if it's going to be done at the beginning of the meeting, then that's how it'll be done, and we'll just write that down. I do want to just state that the resolution, so when Brad sent this out, this resolution, in his email, he said Neola, in partnership with MASD, is providing a draft resolution for all districts to use instead of putting temporary policy change in place. So we could adopt this resolution and have all of the changes, they're all included in this resolution. So we may want to just look through the resolution because everything that's in the resolution is also in this document.
Yes. And if you guys look at the resolution for number 2, the procedures must provide for, and go to B, it says for each member of the board attending the meeting electronically, a public announcement at the outset of the meeting by that member to be included in the meeting minutes that the member is in fact attending the meeting electronically, and except for members who are participating electronically due to military duty, stating the county, city, township, or village and state where that member is located. So I would assume, because you can't state the medical, that would cover just stating it prior to the meeting.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
So if somebody's absent, you just say they're getting absent and where are they at?
Absent,
Remote.
attending
Or,
remotely.
or I'm sorry,
Attending
remote, attending remote electronically. Yeah, you're right.
All right, so the question, the next question is that's not including if you're in military service, is that correct?
Correct.
Right.
Because if they're on active duty, they might be in a location that cannot be disclosed.
Correct.
That's why that's like, there's a comma before, except for members who are participating electronically due to military duty. You can't say where they're located.
Correct.
Yeah, that could, yeah. Sounds like a funny thing. All right,
So this resolution, will that be on the board agenda for the next?
19th.
Okay.
Mhm.
So are we gonna adopt the first reading today or?
It would have to be. So our first reading will be today for this resolution, and then in November.
yeah, because we're saying this is a policy thing, right? This is a
It would
policy.
just be like an additional resolution that we would follow.
You're right. It's not, it's a resolution.
Yeah, so it's
So
not
we
a,
don't have
it's
to
not,
vote on it or anything today, right?
no, no, it can wait till the next meeting. It's just a matter of
Correct.
when you want to do it. It's just a resolution.
Right.
It's not a policy change.
No,
For number 5 though, on the resolution, I know they had that box open.
Mhm.
Is that something we need to add or take out?
No, normally when they do that, it's something you choose, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, that's the part, the public comment that we have to discuss.
it's kind of what we're doing today, right?
Correct.
It is. So therefore that should have a check. That should be something that we include in that resolution. Is that what you're saying, Jim?
I mean, that's the process that we're doing today is it's a typed public comment that is read and shared. So I would say, I mean, that's what we're doing. Why not
Right.
adopt that?
Here.
So the problem with it is we're not supposed to do it unless we turn on that form when we start the meeting, and they have only a couple minutes until we get to that public comment to read it. We can't take it beforehand. So
He felt that that would be, just when we were listening and some of the comments is that it's really hard for that time frame and for people to type. And so they thought that speaking, my question is, are we capable, does Phil have everything set up to allow for public comment to come on during our meetings?
well, we do it right now through the call-in number. So if somebody wanted to speak, during that presentation, Brad was saying that the board president would say, does anybody have public comment? And wait, and then announce it 2 more times. And then if nobody speaks, then we move on. It was a suggestion.
Okay, that makes sense.
And what's the phone call-in number? The one that we already have?
So
Or we would have to give that.
it generates, when we kind of make the meeting, it generates a phone number as well. So the phone number always gets given to the public.
Okay. Right. So if you're calling in on the Zoom or whatever, right? Is
Yeah,
that what-
or if they just
okay.
want to listen, if they didn't want to watch the stream,
Yep.
they could call in on the phone and listen.
Okay. And so then we wouldn't mute them or anything or have any, you know what I'm saying? Like we wouldn't have any deterrent in there that would cause them for not saying hello, or whatever, right? Like,
No, it would depend. I feel like during the beginning of the meeting, we would probably mute
yes.
everyone, and then those callers have the ability to unmute
Okay.
themselves.
And that's just what I want to make sure so that we're not like somebody's forgetting and we have them all muted and then they tried to talk and then we have a problem down the road. So, okay.
Mhm.
I'm okay with having a window and having people publicly speak. And again, I don't think we need any, address or anything. I don't think just a name stating who they are since we are in a virtual setting so that we know how to address the comment. That's my personal, I'm okay with that.
I have a question. After January 1st, then we're no longer holding virtual meetings, correct?
Unless this gets extended, correct?
Unless this gets extended. Do we still have to provide a virtual avenue for public comment at that point? Or would it be assumed that public comment would be in person?
In person is what I'm understanding.
Yes, it is. If we have a physical meeting and we're not meeting virtually, we can still stream the meeting, but any public comment needs to be
In
physically
person.
in person.
Okay, thank you.
And we can discuss that down the road of when we go after January 1st, 2021, is streaming our videos. I've had feedback. I don't know if anybody else has, but they really like being able to go back and watch our meetings after the fact. Or if they didn't have time to come at 5:30, then they can watch them at a different time and listen to them as they're doing other things. So I've heard good feedback of our meetings, being virtual and being able to go to our YouTube channel and pull it back up and watch it again.
And if we're in person, I guess when we get to that point,
Yep.
long term, we probably need a single camera. So we probably won't be in a
Correct.
Google meeting.
Correct, sure.
And I think where we're holding the meeting in the auditorium is a little old. And I think Phil was having some issues even trying to set up us being when before this law got passed, when we were going to have to go in person or allow for in person. I know that there was a little bit of issues with our technology in that area of the building. So I know there's some work that's going to have to be done. But again, we can discuss it further down the road during, when we get to that point. And who knows if this will be extended or not.
Is that all we have?
So just the question, or going back to that, so 5, we're including that, correct?
What
when we have
Michelle's
it-
saying is, because if we were to include that, we can't have that link out until just before the meeting, as the meeting starts, and they have to be able to fill it out quickly. So I think the recommendation was maybe not to do that.
I wanted to add, he also talked in the presentation about you can move that public comment. You can have it at the end of the meeting. Some school boards have 2, one at the beginning, one at the end. So if we wanted to keep with the form, we could put it towards the end of the meeting
Yeah, there was a
or
lot of.
just do the call in. Yeah, there's lots of different options.
We did at one time have it towards the end, but I think there was feedback. This is early on, the feedback that hey, you guys already voted on what I wanted to talk about, so
Right.
I can't really talk about it. So we moved it earlier, and that's the reason why. But I mean, I guess during these times, maybe that's something we do. We could do something before and at the end.
I believe the city of Buchanan has both at the beginning and at the end.
Yeah,
If
they
I
do.
remember some of those meetings that I've been to.
They do. They do.
Okay.
They have
Wow.
public comments at two times there.
So maybe number 5 needs to be revised to also include the phone in addition to the typing of the technology.
Yeah, can we do both? They said we could do both, right?
Yeah.
You could have it open and have the call in. So, yeah.
And what about putting the public comments after the reports? That would give more time to type. And so the executive team and the person who gets the award for the month, and after those routine
Reports
yeah,
and all
just
that.
move it back a little
Give
bit
it more time.
in to give them more time. I don't know if that would work, and maybe would eliminate our concerns about how fast you have to type and how quickly you have to get those in.
I thought public comment was already after a lot of those reports.
I'm not sure. I don't have that in front of me right now, but if it's not, it should be after those reports.
So I'm looking here.
Okay.
At this is, let's say, the October 19th
Okay.
meeting agenda.
Mhm.
We had adopted agenda, recognition of visitors, information reports
Okay.
of new business, superintendent department reports, and
Oh.
then it was community dialogue, citizen concerns.
Then they've got plenty of time, I would think. Yeah. I agree.
So it's already
Thank
there.
you, Jim.
So we are leaving the comments where they are and just having the one, correct?
Say that again. Sorry.
We're leaving the comments where they are right now on the agenda, and then
I
Yes.
take one
Yeah.
section for public comments. We're not gonna do 2.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
So we'll have it one, but I'm guessing we will have both written and oral, right?
Or-
Yes. I'm fine with that.
Sounds good.
Does that pretty much sum it up?
Yeah, there's just, I think the biggest was we had all these meetings before our last meeting, and so it was so contingent on this law getting passed, so then it got passed. And so I think we all wanted just to make sure if anybody had questions, if everybody was aware of Open Meetings Act. So if nobody has any questions, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, I think this is a good review too of the Open Meetings Act for all of us.
Mhm.
Because some of it, like the emergency stuff, some of the other meeting things, the closed sessions, all of those are things that we already do and review, and a lot of them are addressed already in policy. So
We
yeah.
did a good job with homework here because the original one that Kelly and I attended, and I'm sure Michelle, yours was almost as long, it was almost an hour and a half long to go through this. So it was great that we got through in less than an hour.
Okay, is there any questions or comments from board members? Any more? All right, our next board meeting is Monday, November 16th, 2020, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank